Now these are some of the images I took many, many years ago, 40 years ago almost. Close-ups of the grassy knoll area where the president was shot. Now some people can claim these are just lights and shadows, but some people
Moments
claim a
before
lot of
Kennedy
things.
was first wounded.
All
On the
I can
grassy
tell you is
knoll was
these
a
are
shape
just pure
resembling a black
magnification.
dog. Photo analyst Bobby Hunt.
It is a black shape, apparently the head and shoulders of a man. In the region of the what we'd call the face, there was some pink tones, purported to be flesh tones. And there was also an object which looked like a rifle with a flash suppressor or a nozzle on the rifle. But we concluded that this was a human being. That conclusion was derived from the enhancement and from some color
That's their
spectrographic
close-up.
analysis
This is
we
my
did on the visible
close-up.
flesh tones of the object. We did not conclude, however, that that was a rifle. We simply said it was consistent with a blur induced by the motion of the photograph.
In a position that was closer than anybody else, just from by happenstance, that allowed me to look for some period of time at the president's head wound.
This was a suspicious image as I was
18 inches
focusing
away
on near
from
the
it.
back of the
Dr.
wall.
Perry, who was enlarging the wound in the neck to do the
For
tracheostomy,
me, it
told
looks
me
like
that
there's
the
one,
small wound in the
two,
neck looked like an
3
entrance wound.
people.
The head wound that I saw
Possibly.
was a very large wound in the right posterior part of the head.
Well, where did you think the shots had come from? What did you think?
But I think, even then, that I would have thought that this was certainly an exit wound in the back of the head, and that therefore the shot must have come from the front.
I viewed the autopsy pictures. They had the frontal part of the cerebrum here in the skull.
Another one of my
So
close-ups
when it
I
was
found
taken,
many years ago.
you think they pulled the skin back up over this wound?
That's the only thing I can postulate, because the back of his head was gone. This was
They
a
claim
huge
there was a
hole.
big hole in the
It was on
top,
the
front top of the head.
9 to 10 centimeters
When
across.
we zoom in on the
And you
Mormon
can look
photo,
right
we
into
see
the
something
brain.
different here.
Crenshaw.
Right where the Dallas doctors described it.
Large hole is at the front of the head. See something else. This is just almost a personal a question. Are you
So what we're dealing with
today
here is just
with
pure
the notion that
forgery of
someone
the
was
autopsy.
firing at President Kennedy somewhere from the front?
Yes.
Are you equally comfortable, or are you not comfortable with the notion that there is forgery of some sort in the official documents of this?
I feel there probably is. I certainly could not be, held down to saying exactly how that is, or even approximately how it is, perhaps. But I
So
feel
what they always
that
have
there
claimed,
has
this looks
been
like an exit wound.
some kind of attempt to cover up what was going on.
Let me show you, to my best recollection, what the wound looked like to me that day in trauma room 1.
Before each doctor looked at the photos, he described the wounds he had seen back in 1963.
I could see the president's head wound quite well, and I was probably looking into a wound that was on the lateral or the side part of the head and the back part of the head.
It would be this portion of the head right here.
As I remember,
They've managed to move that wound all over the head.
Wound, big deficit in his skull and the temporal parietal area.
One of these shots.
This blob right here, that doesn't appear to be like much. Just, well, anyhow, I was taking a lot closer look here. Let's see if you see what I saw. see a face here, a face here. What really caught my eye was this upside down stripe here. I couldn't figure out what that could have been. So I was looking a little closer. So that's a little closer up of that image right here. As you can see, this is on the, this is picked up on television as they zoomed in on the Mormon photo. This was in a book, double page enlargement. So you get the gist of it. I was looking there, and let's take him now. So it was after I found that I decided to look closer at the president. Extracted from that. And when I discovered those images in the back on the head. How about a colorized version? One face there, one face here. So you can imagine my surprise when I seen this image, and then I went to look at the president, and it all seemed to add up. Well, I gotta do it this way. I got all kinds of images here. Yes, there it is. Here's an independent close-up somebody did. I don't even know who it was, but this was a digitally enhanced version of the Mormon photo. They never even noticed this. I made a enlargement and I put it up here in the front. They were looking. So yeah, they were zooming in over here on this image right here. Back along here. It could possibly be a treat. But they never even noticed this. I know it's hard to see. I didn't see it for several minutes. And once I started putting the pieces together, once the brain starts putting the pieces together, like I say, all I was looking at was this upside down V. Let's see, there should be something. Yes, that upside down V. And then I noticed there were a few others. There was this, what appears to be a circle here, just above that. And then I started putting the pieces together. You start seeing the faces. Once you start seeing the faces, understand this is the left arm. That's the History Channel, that's close up. Again. I'm losing my... Where's the color? There's the colorized. So there's definitely something very unusual there, to say the least. And when you put it all together, I can find that one again. Well, anyways, here's an even more extreme close-up. Let me see if I move that in a little. Now, this is very curious that at that distance, I mean, it's picking up this, and it does look like some writing much similar to this. That's a very long distance. But anyways, I can't get this to work. So anyhow, it's very curious that, if I can find that one. It's very curious that you'd have two images like that found in this one photograph. And not only that, but an image like that also. Now, anyone who thinks
image over here on
lights
the
and
right was
shadows,
found by
there's
Jack
always a
White and Gary
possibility of
Mack
lights and shadows, but those are the
about the
damnedest
same time
lights
I
and
found
shadows
this
I've ever
image,
seen.
but they got
And as far as I'm concerned, this makes more sense than
it
anything.
showed up on the men who killed Kennedy, and I thought it was going to be this one, and nobody ever knew. I had this image when they released this. So not just one, but two. Very curious.
It was, oh, 3 or 4 real close together. And it was, must have been the first one that shot him, because that was the time I took the picture. And during that time, after I took the picture, and the shots were still being fired, I decided I'd better get on the ground.
Here's another extreme close-up of that image done by Gary Mack and Jack White.
I had been panning shots through here so that I could get whatever was going to come down the street. And I saw that it was the President of the United States. And as I was...
Now, Gordon Arnold, here's his story here. He claimed he was on leave, and he went to the parade to watch the president. He claims he was standing on the sidewalk between the fence and the wall, the grassy wall, with his camera filming the motorcade. He heard gunshots, reports, and he hit the dirt. Now also in the Jack White, Gary Mack close-ups of the Mormon photo. This is what they claim is Arnold here to back up his story.
panning down this direction. Just as I got to about this position, a shot come right past my left ear. And that meant it would have had to come from this direction.
At that time, I turned to Gail and said, that's it, hit the ground.
And now, I've also found an image on that, on some of the photos of the grassy knoll. Also, Senator Yarborough was driving with Vice President Johnson in the motorcade, and as their car, there were two cars back, as they my eye was tracked to the right, and I saw the man jump about 10 feet like an old-time tackle in football, land against the wall. He also thought he smelled gunpowder near the grassy knoll and yelled, "My God, they've shot the president."
And and Arnold says he hit the dirt. Now here's a close-up I've found. Between the fence, the side steps is her hair. And this is the image I found. And it looks to me like Gordon Arnold hit the dust. Hit the dirt. And if what he says is true, and that's him there, or the other image. That alone would prove conspiracy. Well.
And we turned and hit the ground and covered our children. But when the third shot was fired, I thought it came from directly behind towards the grassy knoll behind me. I based that primarily on the third shot from what I saw of the side of the president's head coming off and from the sound of the rifle, the report of the rifle.
I will always believe that the man that shot President Kennedy was standing somewhere in the picket fence area, and no one will ever convince me any differently.
It doesn't make sense to be hit from the rear and still have your face intact.
Well, I am very dead certain at least one shot, including the one that took the president's skull off, had to come from the right front. And I'll stand by that to my death over my mother's grave.